Good morning, everyone. Lots going on. I got my newsletter sent. Yay! So if you want to sign up for the newsletter, you can do that on CanadaPoly.com here, and you can do it on Canada Report. And also, I had some people saying that they couldn't find the most recent video, like the daily video updated. I always upload it on CanadaPoly.com. And so I'll just to show you, here's the BitChute version and then the Rumble version. And so the YouTube version, I leave off my website, because if they shut me off, then that's all of my back catalog gone, right? So that's not so good. So I'm backing up to these alternative platforms that are less likely to silence me, I suppose, to remove me from their platforms. So yeah, do sign up for the newsletter. It is actually sending, and I'll send it at the end of the week, I guess. Friday? No, that's today. Haha. Next week. I'll send it next week. We'll figure it a day. We'll figure it out. We'll talk. We'll figure it out. Sign up on those websites. Okay, that was a much longer intro than I'm used to. Here we go. Yesterday, I listened to, probably 40 minutes of this. I was washing dishes and I listened to this, and it was very interesting. This is Michael Swinwood, and he goes back to the 1200s to explain why what's happening today is what's happening today, just like in the legal framework of things, right? And the impact of decisions made then is echoing through into here and now. And it's an interesting perspective. He works with Elders Without Borders. He explains the inception of that legal entity, I suppose, because he represents, or he works with them, represents them. And so he's a very serious guy. I think he's super smart. I think he really gets what's going on to a level where if you were to sit down with like a really, really smart physicist and say, tell me about your work, you would be lost in like 10 seconds, right? This guy does a better job of bridging his knowledge. And that's why I say he goes back to the 1200s. He really explains what's going on. But that's the level of, if you came in halfway, you could be like, what? What are you talking about? And it's complicated because it's complicated, right? And it's unfortunate because humans these days don't like complicated things. We're like, hold on a second. That sounds fishy. I have to do 3 jumps to understand this? No way. So anyway, if you want to have a really good understanding of what's going on, the legal challenge that's going on, he works with Rainier Folmark. I think I've got that wrong, but sorry. The lawyer who won the case against Volkswagen about the falsification of their emissions. And so he won that. And so he's got lots of credibility with regards to bringing lawsuits. And he's got a big group of lawyers working on an international challenge to all of this with the framework of law within each country. So, and Michael Swinwood is a Canadian lawyer. So I think that it's a really good piece of, a really good interview, well worth your time. Go check it out. Worth it. I don't know if I couldn't speed it up. I had a hard time speeding it up, so that was annoying. An update on this. You remember watching this? The Barrie police officer assaulting a man for daring to skateboard during COVID-19. Don't you know there's a pandemic, sir? And so he attacked him, right? And the whole thing was taken on video, and people were saying, calm down, like telling the kid to calm down. The kid, he's 21, right? But I'm 40. It's funny when 21-year-olds become kids. But he's being told to, I think he's 21, 20-year-old. People were telling him to calm down and just relax, and he'd get out of it. It's easier to just comply and whatever. And Tim Pool made a good point. He's like, you stay calm, you listen to the cops, you don't be an idiot, you'll avoid situations like this. All good advice. But this cop way overstepped, and now he's being charged with assault. So there you go. Barrie police officer charged with assault following a violent arrest. And that's good. I'm glad. It's terrible that this guy had to go through that. It's terrible that the cop was power tripping like that. And I'm glad that there is at least some justice in Canada, some very, very small sliver of justice. We'll see if the charges stick and if he has any kind of consequences. Isn't there a police, like if you were a police officer and you do something like this, aren't there public charges and like you violated this code of the police and you get a charge, right? Like military, right? There's a military law, although I guess military can't be charged in a civilian court, can they? So anyway, lots and lots and lots of stuff. Complicated. It's complicated. You wouldn't like to follow the 4 or 5 steps it takes to get it. I mean, me too. There's lots of different layers of, like, parliamentarians are subject to certain exemptions, right? And all sorts of exemptions from certain things, right? And it's like, to understand everything is difficult. And they're canceling math because, and not in Canada yet, but Iowa, one state is canceling math because it is complicated and everybody doesn't have the same outcome, right? Like not everybody does well in math. So they're just canceling advanced math below grade like 11. Good luck getting in the grade 11 advanced math class, right? Like, so it seems like this race to mediocrity is everywhere except in understanding complicated things, because as soon as you do that, you can exploit the loopholes, right? So as soon as you do that and have leverage to exploit the loopholes, then you exploit the loopholes, right? Makes it complicated and then excludes a whole bunch of people through that complication. It's like hiding inflation or a tax in inflation. Doug Ford update. Travis Darnage. I've got that terribly. I'm sorry, Travis. I've got that definitely wrong. But he says, despite rumors to the contrary, I have confirmed with the Premier's office Doug Ford is in good health, symptom-free, and expects to be out of isolation early next week as per public health guidelines. Usually, like, didn't the Prime Minister do video conferences and things? Doug Ford could jump on a Zoom meeting with everybody, say, hey, everyone, I'm doing fine. The rumors of my demise, whatever. You could make some play on that quote, right? Far exaggerated, yada, yada. But instead, don't worry about it. Travis has looked into it, right? Okay. He's definitely fine. Definitely fine. No questions about it. Speaking of inflation, let's get into it. Inventory low, order times long equals inflation. Get ready for manufactured goods shortage of our lifetime, says Jamie Hurd. Inventory at 25-year lows, vendor lead times at 25-year highs. Vendor lead times are times to get the product that you ordered from the manufacturer of the product, right? And inventory lows are what you have in the warehouse to sell to your customers, right? And so this is an increase, right? The blue is the lead times, and the white going down is the inventory. Not so good, right? Inflation's not so good. Here is Pierre Poilievre talking about inflation. He's making the case here. It's a 10-minute speech. He's making the case here that, a whole bunch of things. It's complicated, as I've been talking about, as is everything, right? As is everything. And purposely or not purposely, whatever, but part of the speech is 154 billion is the amount of debt the federal government will add this year. 156 billion is the amount of federal debt the central bank will buy this year. So they're printing the entire deficit. Hear that rumbling sound getting closer? That's inflation marching. And he talks about the real cost of inflation. It is a similar thing to implementing a higher GST. Everything is impacted by it, everything. And so everything costs more. And so you get less with your dollars. Your buying power decreases. This is a problem. And so Poilievre makes the human case, and then he explains the complicated bit, right? He connects with you on it first and then explains the complicated bit, because it is complicated and people don't like complicated things. Anyway, here we go. Here's a bit of the speech. So much of it is worth watching. Check it out.
He works as a landscaper. He's doing some of the landscaping around our beautiful parliamentary precinct. Matthew is a worker. He's a member of LIUNA. He has the kind of job that built our country. Waves after waves of immigrants came here and worked in construction to build our roads, our facilities, and to make, in the case of Matthew, who is from Winchester, to beautify our communities, and had jobs that could provide them with a good life. That if they got into bed in the morning and worked hard all day, as people like Matthew always do, they could expect to have a home, put good, nutritious food on the table, and pay the bills for their kids. But Matthew pulled me aside to tell me about the silent attack on him and people like him that has occurred over the last year in Canada. And it is the silent tax we call inflation. Ever since, and it speaks to how out of touch the members of this House of Commons are, that they burst into laughter when I mention the struggles that people like Matthew are having with inflation. Maybe they They won't be laughing after they hear the whole story.
So Polyev goes through talking
In Winchester, where
about the cost price increase of a house. The price of food talks about 5%, and they say inflation's at 2%, but he lists a bunch of things that are much higher than that. Have their costs have increased by more than 2%, more than inflation. And so again, the buying power is decreased, right? So this is interesting to hear the Liberal side of the House of Commons break out into laughter when he says the word inflation. Unbelievable, right? Just this dishonest, misleading people. And so, in addition to literally printing the entire deficit of money, right? Money printing, the money printing machine is humming in the background, as Polyev says in the speech. It seems like they don't care. I mean, it seems like they burst out into laughter. They don't care. They don't care. They don't care. That's not even... it's not even in their realm of possible things that could happen, that something bad could happen, right? Like, that's the thing. So this video is talking about hyperinflation. It was posted on April 11th, 2021. It says hyperinflation is already here. You just haven't realized it yet. And so it goes through a whole bunch of examples through history. He says also at the beginning, don't go and change your entire investment portfolio or anything like that based on a YouTube video, do your own research type deal. But at the same time, there's a very disturbing video with a whole bunch of very interesting data, and you should spend your time and go watch that too. So I often put it on in the background, and I'll turn off the screen and put it in my back pocket and listen while I'm walking or something like that. I don't just sit on YouTube all day. I'm watching children, etc. Anyway, regardless, Mary Ng, I've probably got that wrong too, so sorry, Mary. She says, Budget 2021 is the most small business-friendly budget in Canadian history. Canadian small biz are the backbone of our economy. Do you know how many of those small businesses are closed and have been closed for the last year, Mary? Do you know how many gyms and salons and other restaurants, other businesses that have been unable to function because of the bad policies of our premiers and the lockdown policies that have governed us? No, I don't think that the budget is going to help with that. How is it going to revitalize Main Street? I'm just not sure that they're in the realm of reality, right? I really just don't think that they're operating with what's actually happened in mind. It seems like the rhetoric says we say this, or the plan says we say this, so we say this, and that's what we're getting out of them. Which is the same thing as pushing the speaking points of the agreed upon speaking points in the House or the caucus, right? Once you're in the Liberal caucus, then you can disagree privately, but publicly you pull this, you toe the same line. You say what the agreed messaging is, right? And so you get the agreed messaging. That's what the government is all about, right? They put out there what they want to put out there, and the Liberals are really good at it. I've got to give them credit where credit's due. They're uniform in their language. They roll it out consistently, and the Conservatives don't. They don't. The OPC, it's a mess. Jason Kenney's communication's been a mess. So, because they're inconsistent, because they keep lying, right? They keep changing and moving the goalposts, and we're going to be open, and then they're not open, and blah 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 blah. The messaging doesn't work, right? It's very inconsistent. Inconsistent's the wrong word. It doesn't. They're not trustworthy because they don't follow through. Especially Jason Kenney, and he's feeling the heat on that, right? And so that's something to note. That's something that's interesting to me. But anyway, regardless, moving on. I hadn't seen this. This was released April 16th without comment. Here is the next leader of the opposition, Aaron O'Toole.
Islamophobia is also a problem we are facing here in Canada and around the world. Islamophobia is real, and we have to call it out. It cannot be tolerated in our country in any way.
Pandering, Andrew. Not Andrew Scheer. Pandering, Aaron O'Toole. Wow, right? I mean, I'm not shocked. I'm not surprised by that. Did he not know about the inflation on April 16th? Did he not understand what was going on? No, I guess not. Right? I guess not. There aren't more important things to deal with in Canada than that. He wanted to focus on the most important things to Canadians, right? That's why Aaron O'Toole addressed it head on in 13 months into Ontario's lockdown, right? 13 months. And I'll show you, Alberta's looking at adding lockdown measures as well. We'll talk about that in the redacted part of the show over on the other video sites, etc., Rumble and BitChute and Odysee. But anyway, Angus Reid says, talking about governance, the next election will be a referendum on the Trudeau administration. Almost 40% now strong disapprove of Justin Trudeau, only 8% strongly approve. Those who claim a Liberal majority is almost certain need to look more closely at the data. I mean, like, you need a Liberal, to get a Liberal majority, you need like 37%. So 40% of people, even 48% of people are who don't like it. It's only 40%, and that's strongly disapprove. And I don't know what moderately disapprove. Okay, so like 37 strongly disapprove, 18% moderately disapprove. You only need, and 40% either moderately or strongly approve. So when you talk about this and say, oh, I don't know, get those wins out of those Liberal sales, the reality is the CPC is not resonating with their usual base, and nobody in Ontario and nobody federally represents a large portion of conservative people in Canada, in Ontario, and in Canada at this point in time. Everybody is a Liberal or further left than a Liberal. And the Liberals, are they further left than the NDP? I think so. At this point, I think so, right? But this poll is just a way to manufacture an alternate headline that's, Liberals aren't in charge of a commanding lead barreling into the next election, because they are. And if you don't think that, I mean, even this minority, the only reason that the Liberals want a majority is because it has less oversight. They'd be in control of all the committees. Right now, there are situations where they can be voted down, and they don't like that, right? They can be voted down and now they have to rely on the NDP, Jagmeet Singh and his backbenchers, right? And or another dancing partner in the Quebec bloc. But either one will probably play ball, right? And we've seen example after example after example of that, right? So that the only reason they need a majority is if they think they'll get it, and for lack of oversight. A reduction in the oversight on spending and backroom deals and all of the rest of it. All of the rest of the stuff that they've just filibustered so far and been enabled by Bloc or NDP MPs, right? So there you go. Moving into Vance. This is interesting. Mercedes Stevenson says, I've never seen anything like this before. Major General Kerrigan was promoted to Lieutenant General Kerrigan at 9:30 this morning, according to the DND, Department of National Defense. Nothing was sent out and nothing was mentioned about it at the press conference. Also, her mic didn't work. Right. Lieutenant General is significant. It is a service chief, combatant command, VCDS level. Lieutenant Gen, or rank equivalents, run the Army, the Navy, the Air Force. Why was there no media release about this? Why didn't we have access to the promotion? We also have not been able to get any details on what powers Lieutenant General Kerrigan will have. So that's interesting, right? That happened quick. They're also looking for, hold on a second. They're also looking to start another review. The defense minister is now announcing an independent review of the military's handling of sexual misconduct. What needs to be included in this review is the minister's own lack of action, as well as the PMO, who supported the same minister in looking the other way. In 2017, they did a similar review. Were any of the recommendations from that review picked up and used at all? How did Vance avoid detection at that point in time? There are lots of questions and things that a review is not going to answer. National Post is saying, frustrating and cruel. Experts land-based Liberals plan to conduct another review into military sexual misconduct. So there's lots of people lamb-basting them. This is for the lockdown, so I'll move that. Hold on a second. We'll talk about free speech first. The heat around Bill C-10 is heating up. That was bad. Heritage Minister Stephen Guilbeault, in draft order to regulators, warns YouTube videos must embrace the government vision of internet content. Oh man, can you imagine my show embracing the government vision of internet content? Golly gee. That would be fun. Full-blown assault on free expression inside the comprehensive liberal bill to regulate the internet. That's from the Justice Center. Worth a read. I'm not going to go through it. Here is the CBC. They were shamed into picking this story up, so they published something this morning at 4 a.m. Your free speech is at risk with Ottawa's push to regulate online content, experts warn. I didn't think this was kind of the same, what you'd usually expect from CBC, in that they don't really warn against anything. They say some experts think this, but they really push the government line on this, and they don't dig into the potential problems with this. And so this is a much better read, in my opinion. Freedom of expression be darned. C10 amendments amount to censorship. And this is from the crtt.ca. I just enjoyed this much better, and I thought it was more comprehensive. Michael Geist can be a little wordy and a little hard to read sometimes, I find, but this one I thought was really good, and it kind of outlined what's important. And I mean, like, part of it is like, here, I'll read this part, and just to give you a flavor of it. With the deletion of one clause, 4.1 in Bill C10, the bill to amend and update the Broadcasting Act, the CRTC will be empowered to force the likes of Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, etc. to monitor and control user-uploaded audio and video posts, and to remove those which run counter to the objectives of the Act. We're not talking about content that may be illegal. The Broadcasting Act's objectives go far beyond classic limitations of freedom of expression, such as obscenity, child pornography, libel, and slander. Those laws already apply online. What we're talking about here is controlling content based on Broadcasting Act's objectives that include the socio-political, safeguard, enrich, and strengthen the cultural, political, and social economic fabric of Canada. The societal, a balance of information, enlightenment, and entertainment for men, women, and children of all ages, interests, and tastes. The aspirational, I just realized I'm not, there we go. The aspirational serve the needs and interests of all Canadians, including Canadians from racialized communities and Canadians of a diverse ethno-cultural background, socioeconomic status, abilities and disabilities, sexual orientations, gender identities and expressions, and ages, and reflect their circumstances and aspirations, including equal rights, the linguistic duality and multicultural and multiracial nature of Canadian society, and the special place of Indigenous people within that society. And the completely subjective programming should be of a high standard. Oh, well. I mean, I try, right? But they could shut me down on any of those, right? Like, sorry, man. There's not enough, anything, right? Like, there's not enough children's programming on my show, right? Like, there's not enough programming for new Canadians. So, sorry, man. You've got to be shut down. Sorry, that's what the government says. So, okay, I'm glad we can pause GIFs. I found out we could pause GIFs, and there we go. It's like a superpower. Okay, I was going to do a whole thing where I was like all dark, and it was like, So I Married an Axe Murderer at the beginning, where he's doing that bad poetry, and it's really bad poetry with the drums and the cello. Is it a cello? The upper bass, no, the standing bass, doesn't matter. Anyway, I was going to do a whole performance piece with this, and I couldn't do it. I read it and I thought, oh, this is just awful. I'm just not going to do this. Anyway, Dr. Sharkey, I'm kind of terribly wrong. I'm sorry about the names. I'm not doing it on purpose. He's written a poem. If he's got time to write a poem, why are we could you go to work on a hospital floor and help out? Like, if we're in such dire need? Like, when did you write this? While you were walking from one room to another? Like, did it just come to you? What is the meaning of essential? What's the meaning of essential? Loss of life, exponential. Tragedy ain't just existential. Oh, man. It's like politics is a bad joke, and the doctors are getting in on the bad joke and writing poetry. And it's not good poetry. And even if poetry was like a thing, and I mean, I guess rap is kind of a thing, like it's, that's kind of poetry, right? And it's well done and mixed down and all sorts of other stuff. This is not that. So I don't know. It's odd. It's awkward. It's like the healthcare workers doing the TikTok dances. It just doesn't fit. It's like, are you busy or are you not busy? Are our hospitals at 83% like you guys are pushing, or are they at 125% like we were used to from 2010 to 2019 or early 2020 when people said, we can't possibly run like this, and that's that. It's, it's distract. The people holding this stuff up like they're heroes, the people who are saying, oh, thank you for sharing your thoughts on this thing, they're not genuine. It's bullshit. It's bullshit. It's bullshit being fed to you by people who are trying to nudge you into doing something or believing something. Make up your own mind on what that is, but it's bullshit. This whole thing, total bullshit. Excuse my language, YouTube. Okay, we're going to go over to Redacted now because I'm going to talk about things that YouTube doesn't like. And so sorry about that, YouTube. If you want to stop watching now, that's fine. Thanks for watching, everybody. Check out CanadaPoly.com. Check out CanadaReport.co. Check out SpeakingMoistly.co. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. If you'd like to keep watching, head on over to the other channels, and we'll be there in just a sec. So here we go.